What if I told you that one student's attempt to cancel a conservative speaker backfired so spectacularly that it launched a movement defending free speech on college campuses? What if I told you that one student's attempt to cancel a conservative speaker backfired so spectacularly that it launched a movement defending free speech on college campuses? What if that student thought she had the perfect plan to destroy Charlie Kirk's reputation, but instead created the most viral moment of his career? And what if her coordinated attack didn't just fail, but turned her from campus activist hero into a cautionary tale about the dangers of cancel culture? This is how one Northwestern University student learned that trying to silence someone often makes their voice louder than ever before. Northwestern University's Welsh Ryan Arena was buzzing with unprecedented tension. Emma Rodriguez, 20, a junior gender studies major and leader of the Progressive Student Coalition, had spent weeks orchestrating what she called the most important protest of our generation. With over 50,000 Instagram followers and a reputation as the most influential activist on campus, she was confident this would be her crowning achievement, the complete cancellation of Charlie Kirk. Emma had built her campus fame on takedown videos, petition drives, and organizing walkouts that had forced 3 conservative speakers to cancel their events in the past year. She was untouchable among progressive students, feared by administrators, and treated like royalty by faculty who admired her activism. Tonight she planned to add Charlie Kirk's scalp to her collection. Charlie Kirk, 30, walked onto the stage knowing exactly what he was facing. His team had briefed him on Emma Rodriguez, her tactics, her social media following, her track record of silencing conservative voices. But what Emma didn't know was that Kirk had been studying her approach and had come prepared for something she'd never encountered, someone who wouldn't be intimidated by cancel culture. But what happened in the first few minutes revealed Emma's strategy. As Charlie Kirk began his opening remarks about free speech on college campuses, Emma stood up in the front row with a pre-written sign, "Hate has no home here." Within seconds, dozens of her followers throughout the arena stood up with identical signs, creating a coordinated visual protest designed for social media. Emma pulled out her phone and began live streaming to her Instagram followers. "We're here to confront hate speech," she announced to her phone camera. "Charlie Kirk promotes dangerous ideologies that literally kill trans students, and we will not be silenced." Charlie Kirk paused his speech, looking calmly at the organized disruption. Instead of getting flustered, he smiled. "I see we have some passionate students here tonight," he said into his microphone. "Emma Rodriguez, right? I've actually seen your Instagram. Very impressive following. Would you like to have a conversation instead of a protest?" The direct acknowledgement caught Emma off guard. She hadn't expected to be recognized, much less invited to speak. Her live stream viewers were urging her to destroy him in the comments. "I don't debate fascists," Emma declared loudly, her voice carrying across the arena without a microphone. The first sign of trouble appeared when Kirk responded. "Fascist is a serious accusation," Charlie Kirk replied calmly. "Can you define fascism for everyone here?" Emma felt confident. She'd rehearsed this moment. "Fascism is when you promote policies that target marginalized communities and spread hate speech designed to eliminate vulnerable populations." "That's interesting," Charlie Kirk said. "By that definition, would you consider censoring speech you disagree with to be fascistic behavior?" The question hung in the air. Emma's live stream comments were going crazy, but she noticed some were now questioning her definition. She needed to regain control. "I'm not censoring anyone," she said defensively. "I'm protecting my community from violence." "What violence specifically?" Charlie Kirk asked. "Can you point to one act of violence I've committed or encouraged?" Emma realized she was being drawn into a debate she hadn't prepared for. Her followers were still holding their signs, but they were looking confused about what to do next. "Your rhetoric leads to violence against trans people," she said, falling back on her standard talking points. "Your words kill people." But then Charlie Kirk did something that changed the entire dynamic. "Emma, that's a very serious accusation," he said, his tone becoming more serious. "If my words actually kill people, then you believe words can be violence, correct?" "Yes, exactly," Emma replied, thinking she'd scored a point. "Then what about your words?" Charlie Kirk asked quietly. "Last month, you organized a campaign that got Professor Jenkins fired from the economics department. He had 2 kids and a mortgage. He's now working at a coffee shop trying to feed his family. Did your words cause violence against him?" The arena went completely silent. Even Emma's supporters looked uncomfortable. Professor Jenkins had been popular among students across the political spectrum, and his firing had been controversial even among progressives. Emma's confident demeanor began to crack. That's completely different. He was spreading harmful economic theories that perpetuate inequality. He was teaching basic economics," Charlie Kirk replied. supply and demand, market forces, things that have lifted billions of people out of poverty. But you disagreed with his perspective, so you got him fired. How is that different from what you're accusing me of doing? The moment that exposed everything was coming. Emma felt the crowd's energy shifting. Her Instagram comments were now mixed with people defending Professor Jenkins. She needed to pivot. "You're trying to distract from your own hate speech," she said desperately. "We know what you really are. You're a white supremacist who—" "Emma, stop," Charlie Kirk interrupted, his voice firm but not angry. "You just called me a white supremacist in front of 2,000 people and potentially millions online. That's not a small accusation. That's defamation that could destroy someone's life." The weight of what she'd just said began to dawn on Emma. The live stream was being recorded. The event was being filmed by multiple news outlets. I didn't mean literally white supremacist," she backtracked. "I meant you promote white supremacist adjacent ideologies that—" "Which ideologies specifically?" Charlie Kirk pressed gently. "Can you name one white supremacist position I've advocated for?" Emma couldn't answer. Her talking points were all emotional accusations without specific evidence. She'd never actually researched Kirk's actual positions. She'd only seen the activist summaries that labeled him as dangerous. Then came the moment that went viral worldwide. "Emma," Charlie Kirk said, his voice now carrying genuine concern, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to really think before you answer. In your effort to protect people from what you consider harmful speech, how many people have you harmed?" The question hit Emma like a physical blow. The arena was dead silent. "Professor Jenkins lost his job because you organized a campaign based on ideological disagreement. How many other professors, students, or speakers have you tried to cancel? How many people's lives have you disrupted because you disagreed with their ideas?" Emma's live stream was now showing thousands of viewers, but the comments had shifted dramatically. Former supporters were asking hard questions about her tactics. "I protect marginalized people," Emma said weakly, her voice barely audible. "Do you?" Charlie Kirk asked. "Or do you protect yourself from hearing ideas that challenge your worldview? Because there's a difference between protecting people and protecting your own comfort." The arena erupted in whispers and murmurs. Even some of Emma's supporters were lowering their signs. The devastating realization was spreading through the crowd. Charlie Kirk continued. "Emma, you called me a fascist for expressing ideas you disagree with. But fascists don't debate their opponents, they silence them. Fascists don't engage with criticism, they destroy critics. Fascists don't allow free speech, they determine what speech is acceptable." He paused, looking directly at her. "So I have to ask, based on your own definition of fascism and your own behavior toward people you disagree with, who in this room is actually acting like a fascist?" The question detonated like a bomb. Emma's face went white. Around the arena, her supporters began looking at each other uncomfortably. Some actually sat down, no longer wanting to be part of what was happening. Emma's phone was shaking in her hand. Her live stream showed her own face, pale and shocked, with comments now flowing in from viewers who were witnessing her entire worldview collapse in real time. I'm fighting for justice," she whispered, but even she didn't sound convinced anymore. The final moment that changed everything. "Emma," Charlie Kirk said gently, "what if I told you that the professor you got fired has a transgender daughter, and that he was using his economics platform to advocate for policies that would create more economic opportunities for LGBTQ+ people?" Emma's legs nearly gave out. Professor Jenkins had never mentioned his personal life in class, but students were already pulling up news articles confirming Kirk's statement. "What if I told you that by silencing him you didn't protect marginalized people, you silenced one of their most effective advocates? All because you assumed his economic views made him an enemy." The arena was now in complete chaos, but not the kind Emma had planned. Students were arguing among themselves. Her own supporters were questioning everything they'd been told about Professor Jenkins, about Charlie Kirk, about their tactics. Charlie Kirk looked around the room. "This is what happens when we choose censorship over conversation, assumptions over investigation, ideology over inquiry." Emma didn't research my actual positions or Professor Jenkins's actual record. She just knew we were labeled as dangerous, so we had to be stopped. He turned back to Emma, who was now crying. "Emma, you're not a bad person. You genuinely believe you're protecting people, but what you've learned tonight is that good intentions without good information can cause real harm to real people." The aftermath was immediate and transformative. Emma's live stream ended abruptly, but screen recordings were already spreading across every platform. Emma vs. Kirk began trending, but not in the way she'd hoped. The video became a masterclass in how cancel culture tactics fall apart when confronted with calm, factual responses. Within hours, students who had never questioned progressive orthodoxy were demanding answers about Professor Jenkins's firing. A petition to reinstate him gathered 15,000 signatures in 24 hours, many from Emma's own former supporters. Emma's social media following collapsed overnight. Students who had once seen her as a hero now viewed her as a cautionary tale. Her Progressive Student Coalition lost 80% of its membership within a week, but the most significant change was on Emma herself. 2 weeks later, she published a public apology on Medium, admitting that she had never actually researched the positions of the people she'd tried to cancel. She apologized to Professor Jenkins, to Charlie Kirk, and to the students she'd misled. The lesson resonated far beyond Northwestern. Emma Rodriguez learned what happens when activism becomes authoritarianism, when protecting feelings becomes destroying lives, when fighting hate becomes practicing it. She discovered that the most dangerous person on any campus isn't someone with different ideas, it's someone who believes their good intentions justify silencing others. Charlie Kirk didn't defeat Emma Rodriguez by being louder, angrier, or more ruthless. He defeated her by asking simple questions that exposed the logical contradictions in her worldview. He showed that the best way to counter cancel culture isn't to fight fire with fire, it's to fight fire with light. That night at Northwestern proved something every student, activist, and citizen needs to remember. Ideas don't become more true by silencing opposition, and people don't become more righteous by destroying those who disagree with them. The strongest ideas can withstand scrutiny, and the most confident people welcome debate rather than demanding silence. Because when you try to cancel someone and fail, you don't just lose the argument, you reveal that you never had one to begin with. Emma Rodriguez thought she was protecting her community from dangerous ideas. Instead, she learned that the most dangerous idea of all is believing you have the right to decide what others are allowed to think. If this story reminds you why free speech matters more than comfortable speech, why debate strengthens democracy rather than threatening it, then subscribe and share this with someone who needs to remember that the best response to speech you disagree with isn't censorship, it's better speech. What did you think of how Charlie Kirk handled being targeted for cancellation? Let us know in the comments, and remember, when someone tries to silence you instead of debating you, they're usually admitting they can't win the argument.